I'm going to invite Brandy Williams to come up and have her introduce herself to you. I'll just say very briefly that Brandy is the program director for Love Fosters Hope. Is anyone working with Love Fosters Hope or foster children? She does have her daughter with us today. This is Ella, so good to have Ella here. Love Fosters Hope is one of the organizations that our church supports. Really important program because it helps children and young people who are in the foster program. And as you know about foster children, there are many times where they get moved from home to home. It's hard to feel like you've got a relationship or a contact. And many of them come out of very difficult situations. And when they go into these homes where people open their homes to foster those children, they bring a lot of difficult times with them. And so it's wonderful to have Brandy here, who gives her life to working with these young people to restore them back again, provide the support they need, and then become welcoming adults as they go on through their life. So I want Brandy to share with us today. She does have a short video. She'll be here as long as you want her to be. She doesn't have another class to go to. And so if you have questions, then Brandy will be very happy to take those from you. So I want to introduce Brandy, and glad you're here. Thank you for coming.
Thanks so much. Like I said, my name is Brandy Williams. I started volunteering with Love Fosters Hope 15 years ago. I started working at their camp for kids, so kids 7 to 11 years old. Actually, at that time it was 6 to 11 years old. But 7 to 11-year-old kids is where I started working with them at Royal Family Kids Camp. I was in college. It was such a life-changing experience. My parents had chosen to be a foster family when I was pretty young, and we fostered a lot of kids and adopted a couple. And so it was kind of in my DNA to get involved. And I was volunteering with Pregnancy Assistance Center North at the time, and the director at that time was like, you should go volunteer at this camp. You're a college student, you've got extra time. And I was like, all right, I can do that. And my first year there, they were so little. And they had already been through so much hurt, and it was so hard. And I was wondering why they had a dean of men and women that was just there to counsel the counselors. The camp cousins is what we call them at camp. And I was like, why would they? That seems unnecessary. I had been a YMCA camp counselor, and I had done the camp thing, and I was like, this seems silly to have an extra support staff for the camp counselors. And I don't think I made it through one day before I found that Dean of Women, Rhonda, and I walked up to her and I was like, I don't know that I can do this. I don't know that I can hear their stories. I don't know how to process this. I don't know how to process a baby that's been hurt this much. And one of the little boys, he had already been to 5 different homes at the time. He came up to me and he was like, you can take me home. We really connected, and he wanted to hang out with me, and he's like, you can take me home. And I was living in a dorm at the time, and I was like, I don't think they're going to be okay with that, but I might be able to swing this. And from that time on, I stayed involved with Love Fosters Hope, because at that time, I couldn't foster children, but I could love on them, and I could tell them that God loved them, and that was the part that I could play in their lives. So we're going to hear a video. This is Yvette, and we have a lot of testimonies of our kids recorded. But this young lady has been in my life a lot recently, and I wanted to be able to show you a video of a young lady that I've had the privilege of working with a lot, a beautiful young woman. And so I'm going to let her video play, and then I'll share a little bit more about her story.
I really enjoyed the camp. It's really hard when you come from nothing, and then you're not treated how you want to be treated. And it's when we get into Love Fosters Hope, I heard about it since I was 14, and I started going to the camps, and I felt very accepted, like I didn't before. And it's very overwhelming coming from difficult places and from people that don't love you. And Love Fosters Hope is just an amazing experience. We feel so close, and we feel like family. That's just home. Going through everything we've been through. it's really hard. Like, things really triggered us before in our lives, and it's hard to move past it because it like leaves us wounded, and we don't know how to move past it. So we just have to keep going, and we get to a certain point in our life where we take a break, and Love Foster Hope, it's just always been there. Like, this is the biggest support system that I've ever had. Like, of my foster parents, they used to like not believe in me, and Greg and Cindy, they've been really amazing because those are the first two people that had ever believed in my dreams coming true. The biggest dreams mean something because foster kids don't have a mindset that they think they're not going to reach high. And just because we were in foster care, we don't have to feel like that. Like, our biggest dreams can't come reality.
So it was that her and her twin sister, Jessica, have lived in our rescue home recently. A lot of our kids, so the intro to our services with Love Fosters Hope is generally our camps. Our camps range in age from 7 to 19 years old. So our kids camp, 7 to 11, Royal Family Kids Camp. From Montgomery County, most of our kids are from Montgomery County that come to our camps. And for our younger camps, when they come into our camps, there is maybe a 50-50 chance that these kids are going to end up adopted. But by the time they get to our teen camps at the age of 12, it's pretty unlikely. They've been through a lot of trauma already, and their behavior reflects that trauma. They have a really hard time adjusting to a normal family. And an average family has a really hard time adjusting to a kid with trauma. And so they end up going between foster homes and residential treatment centers. And I don't know if y'all are familiar with residential treatment centers. They're a place where usually teens in foster care are placed when their behaviors are deemed unfit for a foster home. So they go to a residential treatment center, and Spring is actually a hub for our residential treatment centers in the state of Texas. So they will ship foster children from all over the state to Spring, Texas, to these residential treatment centers. They'll end up going from home to residential treatment center and usually age out of the system in a group home. And so when they age out of the system in a group home, there's very little support to show them those really important transitional things that you need to know to become an adult. And so that's where we step in, not just that part, but all the way through forming this relationship with them, letting them know they're loved, letting them know they're valued, and walking with them every step of the way. So I'm going to go through a short overview of our program so I can let y'all know how we do that. So we already went through our camps, where they start. And from camp, once they're the age of 12, they can enter our mentoring program. So that's when CPS has told us that we're allowed to pick them up and drive them around. So we start mentoring them at the age of 12. And their mentor will meet with them at least twice a month and hopefully stay with them through college. This person. It's not a lifetime commitment, but a lot of our mentors just end up staying around. And so this will be the person standing next to them when they graduate. We've had a couple of those in this past year that were exciting to watch. And then we have a home for kids that age out of foster care. So I'm going to share with you kind of a devastating statistic, but 18 months after aging out of foster care, most foster children are dead or homeless or incarcerated. That is most of their realities. And so we are really trying to change that statistic. So for our kids, they can come live in our rescue home. If they fall on hard times, or let's just say that first semester of college doesn't go well, or it goes really well, and they just need a place to come home for Christmas, they can come live in our rescue home. And so we have house parents there, and we have life skills classes there. We teach them to drive and help them with purchasing their first car. Super important when you're in Montgomery County. These kids age out and they have access to resources because they aged out of foster care, but no way to get to them. So they can go to college for free, which is incredible, and they have money provided by the state of Texas for the living expenses, which is wonderful. But if they can't drive, they can't get to those things. And so a lot of the group homes, I say a lot, I've never met one that does. Most of the group homes don't teach them how to drive because I don't know if you remember training your kids how to drive. My oldest is 10, so praise God I haven't had to do that yet. I remember the terrified look on my mother's face as she was teaching me how to drive and then promptly handed me over to my father to teach me how to drive because I was scaring her. That's not something that the group house parents are usually willing to do with these foster children. And so they age out not knowing how to drive, so we step in and we teach them or get them in driver's education classes so that they can access these resources that they have. We also have a program called The Net, so some of them don't need to come live with us. Some of them just need somebody to go with them or to talk with them on the phone about how to buy car insurance. It's not an easy thing when nobody's ever taught you how to buy car insurance. So we will get on the phone with that agent and talk with them and make sure we're on a 3-way call so this kid can learn how to buy car insurance or how to fill out a college application. And so our NET program helps provide that. It also provides some material resources that they don't have. So not having a bed or a laptop for college, we can step in and help them with those things. So we also do RTC visits. We learned in working with these kids that this is a place. There's some really amazing RTCs in spring. We have some really not so amazing RTCs in spring. They're not regulated as much as they should be. And so a lot of times the treatment these kids getting is not therapeutic. And so we have started going into partnering with RTCs and going in there twice a month and doing Bible studies with them, doing crafts with them, inviting them to our camps, and just letting them know that they are loved. You're going to hear that a lot from me, that they are loved. Every single one of our programs, we're telling them, you are loved, you are valued, God created you for a reason. It's really easy when your parents discard you to not feel that way. And so we step in and we make sure they know that they are loved and they are valued and that God loves them. And we show them that by being the hands and feet of Christ. We go into these RTCs and we visit with them and we love on them and we invite them to our camps. And so this was my first teen girls camp that I did this year. And we had 2 RTCs as a part. Show of hands, who would sign up to go to a camp with teenage girls that are in a residential treatment center? I had no idea what I was signing up for. I have a master's in counseling. I had no idea what I was signing up for. And I say that these poor babies, so much they've been through. It's not easy work all the time. I don't want to stand in front of you and just say, hey, these are super lovable, cuddly kids all the time, because it's not. They have a lot of walls up. It's not safe to be cuddly with people. It's not safe to meet an adult and think that they are okay to be around. And so there's a lot of work you have to do. But we went through that camp and it was beautiful. It was beautiful, the trauma and the way we got to step in and sit with them through that trauma and be next to them and walk with them through that. It ends up being a beautiful process and get to pray for them throughout the year. We make sure that our volunteers are trained well. So you're going to hear this a lot. I'm really excited to be at this church. This church is such a blessing to Love Fosters Hope in so many ways. But you'll notice that our next 2 upcoming events are here. One of them is actually in this room. We have our mentor training, so we make sure to train our mentors. And we don't train them just on the rules because we have a lot of rules. We're working with children that are wards of the state, so there are a lot of rules. So we make sure that everybody is federally background checked and is following all the rules. But we also train you in TBRI therapy. And it's not a full course training, but it is a good training in trauma-informed care so that you learn how to meet the need instead of the behavior, and you learn how to de-escalate situations, and you learn how to sit with somebody in their trauma. And so we make sure everybody is well trained. And if you're going to come to our camps, the training's a little bit longer to make sure that you're prepared for what you're going to do. We also have a program called Emerging Leaders. And one, I love it because it was named by our kids, and that's fantastic when they get to speak into what we're doing. We train kids that have been through foster care, that have aged out of the system, to learn how to speak out on behalf of other foster kids. And so what you might think this program would look like is public speaking and ways to present themselves, because they go speak in Austin, and to make sure that they can speak out and speak appropriately. That's like a third of what we train them to do. Most of what we train them to do is we train them how to tell their story without traumatizing themselves more. Because they have a lot of hurt and very poor boundaries, because they've had a lot of people that have broken that boundary. And so we teach them how to share their story in a healthy way for them. What are you comfortable with sharing? What are you going to be able to share that's not going to hurt you more? What part of your story is okay to share right now, and what part might you want to wait a little longer to share later? And that's what we help them to do. We help them to learn how to share their story in ways that will protect them. And so they go on a retreat every year, and we talk with them, and we work with them throughout the year, take them to conferences all over the country to get to speak out on behalf of other kids in foster care, because they know. They're the ones that lived it. My family fostered kids, but I was never in foster care, and I didn't age out of foster care. And so I don't know exactly what they need, but they do. And so they are adults that have aged out of care, that have worked through a lot of their trauma, and we want to make sure that they are given a voice. And so we train them how to use their voice for other kids in care. And so partnered a lot with Rick Miller down from Sugar Land, and he's been an amazing advocate for us. And so those are our programs. And so I wanted to give you how can you help? How can you get involved? So we have our mentor training coming up, which that is this Saturday, October 5th, in actually one of the classrooms here. I don't know which one. But November 19th, we're having Find Your Place. We are one of many organizations in Montgomery County. And hopefully every time you hear somebody speak from Love Fosters Hope, they're not going to just tell you about Love Fosters Hope. Maybe the majority of it, because there's a reason we're involved in this ministry, because we love it so much. We love the way Love Fosters Hope operates and loves on kids and tells them about Jesus, and that's why we're here. But there are other ministries in Montgomery County that are just incredible too, and they serve a different role. We're considered a foster care support organization. So we offer direct support to kids in foster care or that have aged out. But there are other programs in Montgomery County that offer support to foster parents, or there are placement agencies for that place foster children, or like CASA, they go to court on behalf of kids in foster care. Or there are resource bank where foster parents that get a infant and late at night can go get clothes and diapers and those things that you need right away. So there are resources in Montgomery County and a bunch of different organizations that are amazing in coming around these kids and these parents and supporting them. And so on November 19th, we are going to have them in this room, and they're going to be all around. And there are going to be many ways you can get involved. That's a scary word, especially when you're talking about kids in foster care that need to form bonds and relationships. I wanted to be involved. I wanted to be involved right away. So when I was younger and I was doing camps, or I was in college, I did camps. And I did camps until my oldest was born. And I say that, I actually took her to my last camp I did. I was pregnant with her at my second to last camp, and my last camp, I was nursing her. My mom came to camp with me. My girls that I started with were 6, and that was their last year at this camp, so I wanted to make sure to be there for my girls last year. So that's how I got involved then. And I've stepped in over the years with 3 young kids, because they just kept coming. They're wonderful, but they're busy. So with 3 young kids, I have stepped in and done their parties, their Christmas parties. I have done their back-to-school party, or stepped in for these one-day events. I ran in the Run for Hope before and participated in their fundraisers. I mean, this is how I could get involved when my kids were really little. My littlest one's in pre-K now, so life is beginning to get a little bit easier. And there's a little more time, and so I'm finding other ways I can get involved. But there are lots of ways to get involved. It's not necessarily a commitment of every day, 24/7, like a foster parent, and God bless them. We became a respite family because a couple of my good friends from my church became foster parents. And I wanted them to be able to drop their kids off with me when they needed a date night, or if one of their other kids was sick. I just wanted to be able to be there. So that's an amazing way to get involved. Or come and just be at the Christmas party. Last year I played foosball for a good 6 hours. You don't have to play foosball. You can hand out Christmas presents. I played foosball. I like foosball. I played foosball for 6 hours with these. Whoever came through that section at that time, that's what I did. So you can get involved there. We have gatherings 3 times a year where people come, or the kids from camp come, and we just hang out with them. Sometimes it's at a skating rink. Sometimes it's an art project, a therapeutic art project. Sometimes it's we're going to an exotic animal park on October 20th. It's going to be amazing. So there are a lot of one-day opportunities or 2-hour opportunities. There's a ton of ways to get involved. So think about it. Think about ways that you could get involved in our community. Come and sort clothes at Hope's Bridge. Hope's Bridge is our clothing resource bank for Montgomery County. They're incredible. They make sure that baby has what they need, and that's a wonderful way to get involved. So I want to be available to talk to you more about ways that you can get involved. And we have lots of brochures and a sign-up sheet. And the sign-up sheet is just, hey, do you want more information about getting involved with Love Fosters Hope? My mother-in-law's group, she has a group called Heartfelt Sisters. And they got involved by writing all the names of all the kids in Montgomery County on ribbons. And when we did our Run for Hope was yesterday, so if I look tired, that's why, and because I have a 4-year-old. But we did Run for Hope yesterday, and her group wrote the names of foster children on ribbons. And these ribbons were given out to the runners. And the runners not only ran for their kid, but they committed to praying for that kid for the year by name. So we can't give their full name, but their first name was okay. We talked to our CPS regional director who gave us the name. We work very closely with CPS. I know there's a lot of stories, but they are wonderful and they are trying. And so we had our ribbons that we prayed for. And as I'm handing out the ribbons, I'm like, oh, I know Travion. Travion is awesome. Do you know that he sang Look Up Child at our talent show, which was incredible. He usually does worship dances because that is what is in Travion's heart. And, you know, I'm looking at and this is Daisy, and I was at Daisy's camp years ago, you know, and just getting to, these are the children that I've worked with and sharing their story with these people that are committing to pray for them through the whole year. I know that my parents and my grandparents prayed for me all the time growing up and still do. And to have that, you know, to have somebody that is praying for you all the time is so important. And so that's how my mother-in-law's group got involved. Her Heartfelt Sisters wrote, so it wasn't the kids in kinship placement, just the kids in direct foster care in Montgomery County. It was 491 names that they just wrote on blue ribbons. And we were able to pass out for kids to pray for them. We'll actually be doing that again because November 10th is Orphan Sunday, and a lot of our churches in the area are going to honor that by standing on Orphan Sunday and praying for those kids. We'll have ribbons available those days at those churches as well. So people, it's okay. It's okay if a kid's name gets passed out 3 or 4 times. It's going to be awesome. So that's Love Fosters Hope. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
You were telling us about the statistics of the children who age out of foster home. Do you all have statistics for the children that you've worked with?
So we just recently started tracking that. I was the 4th employee added to Love Fosters Hope. This has been a volunteer-based organization. So we're starting to track that. So we have statistics for our kids that we've stayed in contact with, but that is it right now. So we are just starting to track that. I was at the WISE conference on Wednesday, and one of the questions we passed out, I loved all three of our questions, but one of the questions we passed out was how many of our nation's homeless were once foster children, which I did not know the answer to before I wanted to find a question to submit so we could talk about a rescue home. 50%. It makes sense to me working with these kids and their trauma, but it breaks my heart. So that was a rough statistic. Yes,
The
ma'am.
question.
How many RTCs are in Spring? I'm just curious.
Yes, I wish I had that answer. I'm not sure. I actually went to a meeting, and I want to give you a number I remember from the meeting, but I don't want to be wrong, so we're just not going to do it. They're opening even more RTCs in Spring right now. We work with 2 of them. They're between, most of them are between 1960 up to 2920 is like the area that they're concentrated in. And a lot of them are franchises. So it's good money.
Well, I mean, so you said it's a hub.
It is a hub.
So it's a hub for this area?
For RTCs, yes.
The choir volunteered, and we provided hygiene items for one of the RTC
Wonderful.
girls' homes at Christmas last year.
Yeah.
Because I was involved with this home. And
Which home were you involved with?
Hearts with Hope. Lavinia Chapman.
Yeah.
Because I had been in there doing Love and Logic training for their staff.
I used to teach Love and Logic. It's fantastic.
So they're real believers in that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just curious how many, you said it's a hub.
It is a hub.
And they're the only ones I knew about. And it's a girls' home. So
Yes.
that was why I was curious.
So it's a hub, and they're opening more because it's franchising, because they're owners that are opening multiple RTCs. What we're trying to do over the next couple of years is partner with churches to adopt an RTC that they can go into and that they can work with. So what we want to do is have a group that goes in there once every 2 weeks to meet with these girls, to do a craft with these girls. We're working on a curriculum. We're working on a curriculum because you can't go in and sing songs like Good, Good Father. Their concept of father is usually dark and scary, especially in these girls' homes. We have men that work at our girls' camp. They're not direct staff, but they're at our girls' camp, and we had to have them step way back this last girls' camp because of the trauma these girls have been through with men in their lives. And so we are working on a curriculum so we can develop more RTCs and make sure you got to explain who God is, because their concept of God is usually pretty broken before you start going into He loves you and He'll take care of you and He'll be a good father. And so these stories that made sense to me growing up because I had a wonderful father don't always work for them. And so that's something that we're working on for our RTCs.
Can you tell us about the young woman in the video?
Yes, Yvette. I meant to go into her story. Thank you for bringing that up. So Yvette and Jessica, it's something that CPS is doing right now. Some of their new practices are awesome. Some of them not so much. This one not so much. They're reuniting foster children when they age out with their biological parents. If those biological parents were getting services through this time and were working with mentors or therapists or somebody, local churches to help them, it would be a little different. Most of these parents are not. And so the kids that we've worked with that have been reunited with bio parents, it is just re-traumatizing them. And that's what happened with Yvette and Jessica. So Yvette and Jessica moved back in with their bio parents, and it was very unhealthy and very scary. And they moved out. Jessica moved into our rescue home, and Yvette moved in with her boyfriend. And Yvette got pregnant, and she had her baby, and the boyfriend was abusive because that's what Yvette knows to look for. I mean, that's who she's been around. And so that's what she went to. And she ended up in this abusive situation. So we stepped in and we picked them up, and she put her daughter into voluntary placement, which is Yvette's not doing anything wrong. CPS is not getting involved. Yvette wants to figure out how to get on her feet so she can be a good mom for her baby. So Yvette lived in our rescue home, and was able to enroll in college and got and reunited with Jessica in the rescue home, and has gotten on her feet and is now living in a home with her baby and still going to school. And so that is where Yvette is right now, and we are working on, we've gotten her local legal representation so she can get full rights to her baby. So that's what's going on with Yvette right now. So she's doing very well at Lone Star College, and her and her baby are doing well. I don't know if anybody from this class was at Run for Hope yesterday, but she spoke at Run for Hope. And her daughter was there, and her twin sister was there, and it was a wonderful time to get to hang out and see her. So that's what's going on with Yvette.
Any other questions? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Well, let's give Brandy a round of applause then for being here. So thank you for coming. Thank you for your story and your willingness to volunteer. And you mentioned that this coming Saturday there'll be an event here in our church. You could come to volunteer next week.
There's a mentor training here next week.
Mentor training.
So we're holding our mentor training here next week. And I say mentor training. This is for people that want to mentor, but we're also having people that want to just come into the rescue home. And this is something new. So I've recently become the program director for mostly the programs I work with are kids that are aging out or that have aged out. And our rescue home, we are wanting to offer pop-up classes, resume writing, how to dress for an interview, how to fill out a college application, how to do a budget. I had to bring cupcakes last week to the rescue home because I had to talk to them about saving their money, which was not a popular subject. I brought really good Crave cupcakes. It went pretty well. So we want people to get involved there. And we had a small group from a church ask us, well, when can we have training? So we're joining that training with that. So even if you want to come just teach a class and hang out with our kids at the rescue home, that's the place to do that, to make sure that you have the training, we get you background checked, all that fun stuff.
Brandy will stay around for a few minutes. Again, she's going to be with us as long as you'd like. So if you have some questions, sometimes these become personal. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Brandy to the side, then she'll be here. And Ella is passing around some brochures about how to get involved and how to stay in touch.
And I also have a sign-up sheet. It's not, hey, I'm going to come volunteer at a camp, even though really you should. It's that fun. Our camp grandparents are the best part of camp. So, and they just hang out at different activities and play games with them or do arts and crafts with them. It's fantastic. But there are many, many ways to get involved if you'd like to, and or if you'd like to just do the ribbons. And so I will have a sign-up sheet in the back. Is that good?
Back in the back
okay,
is fine.
Wonderful. I'll have a sign-up sheet in the back. Or if you just want to know more information about the organization, we're going to send you a very generic email, no contract, just to find out more about us.
Okay, good. Thank you, Brandy. Appreciate you coming. So I'll just mention briefly as we close here, thanks again to Brandy and Ella for being here and bringing that message. All throughout the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, you are familiar where God's Word says there's a particular focus on orphans and widows. You've read that many times, going back into the Psalms, way back into Deuteronomy. And we'll see in our study of John when we get there that John will talk about orphans and widows regularly as well. But there's one particular place in chapter 14, which we haven't gotten there yet, but the disciples are very concerned about this message he continues to hear from Jesus about, I'm going to be here for a short while and then I've got to go away. Very disturbing to them. I didn't understand exactly what that meant, but he's leaving, and what does that mean for them? And as he's trying to explain to them what this departure is going to look like, he says, I promise you, I will never leave you as an orphan. I will come for you. A wonderful passage that describes really what Brandy is talking about with these young people, that for the disciples throughout the Bible, what are we called? We're called children, aren't we? We're not grandchildren. We're not somehow something that gets brought in. We have to make that decision to be a child of the Father. And the disciples had that picture as well, that they're connected. They love Jesus, and they wanted to carry that message forward, but suddenly they're going to be left behind. And Jesus uses this description of an orphan as someone who is left. And in those early days of the time of Jesus, orphans Widows were in a very desperate position if they had no male figure to care for them. And so Jesus uses that same terminology with these disciples, a term that they would have understood as someone who's totally abandoned, totally adrift, no support whatsoever. And he says, I will not leave you like an orphan. You are my children, and I love you, and I will come for you. So I love this story with Brandy sharing that today about the children that are cared for, even still in our society today, who still have some very difficult times as orphans, or these children who are in the foster care. And when they are abandoned and cut loose, the description she's talking about, so many end up homeless or dead or in prison. It's a very bleak outlook, just as Jesus was trying to calm the disciples. I will not leave you in that position to be an orphan where you face a desperate situation. No. He's our Father, and He loves us. So thank you for sharing God's love with these young people who need that. So great message. So I hope you all have a great week this week. And again, Rifat Fareg will be here next week sharing about what he's doing with Muslim background believers. And you will love his story, and you'll love Rifat. So, well, thanks again. And let's close with a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for the many activities that go on in this church, not just for the sake of having activities, but there are people, Father, behind those activities that you care about. And because of your love in us, we're guided to care about people as well, Father. And we ask that in whatever area that we work in for you, whatever gift you have provided, that we share your love with others. And in particular today, as we think about orphans, people who have been left, these foster children, that you'll give them grace, so you'll give grace to the families who are caring for them, and the support staff like Brandy, who gives her life to lead these young people forward, and that she shares your love with them. And so we just ask, Father, that you'll be with us, and that we will share that love, and that these will become your children, no longer orphans, but you're our Father. And we ask all of this in your name. Amen.